Nah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart. And I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well. And so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insane.
The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. So I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words migrate.
Why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the...
Ever wondered what it feels like to be verbally steamrolled on national TV while your smile stays stuck in place? Just ask Sunny Hostin. Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher teamed up for a takedown so sharp that even her co-hosts looked uneasy. Gutfeld fired off sarcasm like a machine gun on espresso, while Maher delivered his signature no-nonsense logic with a confident little grin. And Sunny? She was left blinking like her Wi-Fi suddenly dropped mid-rant. So what exactly sparked the chaos? Oh, it was gloriously messy.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. So, but the problem with her is that
if I had any doubt that I was right about the change that's happened in the left, watching people protest for a terrorist organization like Hamas, that straightened me up pretty quick.
You can see the way Sunny Hostin, the way she's touching her above her eye, and she can't even look at him because she's an activist, not a journalist or whatever it is that she...
Imagine waking up every morning and deciding to be the human version of a LinkedIn humble brag mixed with a Facebook mom group moderator. That's Sunny Hostin. She's basically a walking masterclass in using elitism like it's a participation trophy and still expecting a standing ovation. Sunny doesn't just bring opinions to the table. She rolls in with a full antique buffet of unsolicited moral superiority, topped off with a generous serving of, I Googled this 5 minutes ago, so now I'm the expert.
About The View, it's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like, it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know,
enter Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher, two men from opposite sides of the political circus who somehow found perfect harmony in the wild terrain of Sunny Hostin's logic. One a Fox News chaos gremlin with the grin of a raccoon raiding a dumpster. The other is an HBO veteran who runs on sarcasm and pure disillusionment. But hey, nothing brings people together quite like a shared opponent to common sense.
Speak the truth, and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie, now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much, we were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're...
Sunny has turned speaking into a full performance, like she's delivering bullet points straight out of a college thesis on oppression, but with the flair of a PTA president campaigning for vice principal. She doesn't really debate, she declares, always with the confidence of someone who truly believes in the facts, just the ones she emotionally agrees with. Ask her to explain inflation, and you might get a brunch story about oat milk prices followed by a passionate rant about systemic injustice in the yogurt aisle.
Think that's bad? The View's co-host, Sunny Hostin, says, hold my beer, and is literally claiming Republican women can't think for themselves.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect this patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what they're...
Greg naturally had a field day. Greg Gutfeld didn't even have to break a sweat. Watching Sunny try to intellectualize current events was like watching someone read Shakespeare through a kaleidoscope. Every opinion came filtered through a foggy lens of personal grievance and the energy of someone who skimmed half a New York Times headline and called it research. Greg, whose whole vibe is Twitter troll with a budget, simply leaned in, raised an eyebrow, and let the contradictions fold in on themselves.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow.
Bill Maher didn't just roast Sunny. He dismantled her like someone frustratedly taking apart IKEA furniture. When she claimed nuanced conversations were a form of privilege, it landed about as smoothly as saying rain is classist because some people own umbrellas. Even Maher and Greg Gutfeld looked genuinely baffled, wondering how someone with a law degree could weaponize victimhood that precisely. Sunny doesn't seem to want a debate. She wants applause. Every sentence feels like it's reaching for a trophy. Gutfeld barely had to lift a finger. Her self-importance was already doing the heavy lifting. She could say good morning and somehow turn it into systemic oppression in coffee beans.
Here's a treat for you. The insufferable Sunny Hostin getting a beatdown from Bill Maher on Gaza.
We're all concerned about the innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and murdered, largely children and women. And are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
Because it's a war and they were attacked and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we get with a ceasefire?
All right. So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization who say openly that they want to commit genocide on the Jewish.
What makes it even funnier is that Sunny genuinely believes she's the voice of reason. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher are over here playing whack-a-mole with her contradictions, using common sense as the mallet. Maher, ever the barroom philosopher, reduced her argument to philosophical dust, especially when she suggested only people with personal trauma could understand systemic issues. He reminded her that reality doesn't require a trauma resume. Sunny treats personal experience like it's sacred. Unless your experience disagrees with hers, then suddenly you're either wrong or part of the patriarchy. Her logic flips faster than a yoga instructor on espresso. Greg didn't even need a stack of facts. His sarcasm did most of the work. She tried to corner him with moral outrage, and he answered like someone casually being offered fries with her Verti signal.
But Bill Maher did get to go on The View, and he said some things that offended the small minds over there. So he had a bit of a debate with the intellectual titan, Sunny Hostin. She was upset with him for using the word woke, and Bill Maher took her to school.
The most painful part? Sunny never even realized she was getting roasted. It's like watching someone walk straight into a glass door while insisting the building is biased. She delivers half-baked arguments like they're profound truths, then looks shocked when they crumble. Bill Maher's final jab landed hard. He asked how someone can claim to be open-minded while canceling anyone who disagrees. Sunny's response? Silence. Logic just doesn't seem to penetrate whatever echo chamber she's broadcasting from. It's a shame. Sunny has the resume of someone who should know better, but instead of leaning on intellect, she leans on identity. Every debate turns into a sermon. Every question or challenge becomes outrage, loud, performative, and totally unproductive. Maher and Greg Gutfeld didn't even plan to team up. They're like rival hitmen who accidentally went after the same target. Watching them take apart her soapbox felt like bipartisan relief. In a world full of noise, Sunny speaks with the confidence of someone who's never been corrected. And the result is a crusade without clarity, where talking a lot somehow means saying very little.
I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly, it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to...
It's not just what Sunny says, it's how she says it. Her voice is the auditory equivalent of a Prius honking, passive-aggressive, smug, and oddly self-important. Every word sounds pre-approved by some invisible committee of condescension consultants. She doesn't just disagree, she dissents, as if being corrected were a constitutional crisis. Greg Gutfeld doesn't waste time debating line by line. He just mudges the logic and watches her contradictions unravel like a badly knit sweater, letting her self-righteousness implode all on its own. Meanwhile, Bill Maher, ever the disillusioned realist, roasts not out of pettiness but out of duty. Someone has to point out the emperor has no clothes while Sunny is still stitching her outrage couture. Her obsession with being the nation's unsolicited moral compass turns every debate into a TED Talk and every differing opinion into a personal betrayal. She doesn't explore ideas, she excommunicates them, guarding the gates of correctness like a bouncer who only lets in thoughts wearing designer outrage.
All of them, actually, that montage we showed, their absurdity strengthens the Republicans at this point. Because Republicans are like, oh yeah, you've been saying that about us. And I think ever since I got into politics since 1995, as I recall, Democrats have been saying this about Republican women. So they just never change. It's not, talk about not fresh. They got nothing else. And so they don't want to defend their policies. So what they try to do is to make the other team more toxic.
She calls for empathy but shows none. She demands understanding but gives none in return. Her version of tolerance only flows one way, toward herself. The only thing consistent in her arguments is the steady hum of double standards underneath. Greg Gutfeld could have been reading cue cards from the crowd. Every one of Sunny's points practically begged for a rebuttal. She brought up systemic injustice, and Greg casually asked how that squares with her network salary. She claimed to speak for the unheard, while Maher and Gutfeld weren't even trying to humiliate her. They were just attempting to save the conversation from her collapsing logic before it dragged the whole panel down. But as always, Sunny didn't notice. Arms crossed, eyes defiant, she waited for applause that never came. Because people don't cheer for someone who mistakes loudness for insight or confidence for truth.
Willingness to say to Sunny Hostin that you can call it whatever you want, but we're talking about the radical left. It is amazing how they then just attempt to redirect it.
Probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sunny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs and...
Sunny Hostin walked off thinking she won, as if she'd just saved democracy with a hashtag. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld smirked, and Bill Maher probably lit a cigar with her cue cards. It wasn't a debate, it was pure slapstick. Sunny delivered every opinion like it was a Supreme Court ruling, while Gutfeld held up a mirror and let her stumble over her own reflection. Maher didn't argue either, he just tugged at the threads until her logic completely unraveled. She speaks like she's starring in a one-woman Broadway show of outrage, mistaking buzzwords for brilliance. While others serve up sarcasm, she delivers unsolicited monologues convinced applause equals truth. But the scoreboard was unplugged long ago, and she's still playing like she's winning.